Joining me for tonight's show is an actress, writer, director, producer, and filmmaker, as well as a member of the transgender community. Tonight joining me is Riley Del Rey.
And if members of the transgender community cannot make strides in education or other political forums, they will continue to suffer from the highest rates of homelessness and hopelessness, the highest rates of homicide and suicide. So I'd like to tell all of you to do your part in helping integrate everybody into our society so that we can participate without prejudice.
Riley, welcome to the show. Riley, I brought you onto the show today because you are a filmmaker as well as a member of the transgender community. So can you explain to me, like, what does that mean to you? What does it mean to be trans in your mind?
Well, I'm a part of a lot of communities, just like you. So I'm really about just evolving and continuing to grow all the time too. So when I didn't like come to this conscious decision to just be transgender, it kind of found me. And through that journey too, I worked in a lot of different fields, legal field, did some advocacy, and that led me to filmmaking. So now that I'm doing filmmaking, of course, I bring the identity of being a transgender person to it. So I feel like that part of me has really been key in bringing to life all of my work. I've created a documentary, #JustAnotherDeadTransWoman, that actually just won an award. Nice. At the International Spotlight Film Festival.
Congrats.
Thank you. But really, I grew up with a dream of always wanting to be an actress, and I think that was a little bit because I am transgender, and because, you know, growing up, I wanted to escape. I wanted to try new things. I didn't want to be trapped in this box because, especially as a young transgender person, not even knowing what, like, transgender is, not really meeting anybody like that, I really didn't know who I was.
At what age did you know, did you start figuring out, like, okay, maybe this isn't, maybe I know something, there's something else for me? At what age did you feel that way?
It was never like a conscious idea of mine, like, oh, I'm transgender, oh, I'm in the wrong body. It was more just like going through life and doing things that were so instinctual and natural to me that whenever I, you know, would behave that way, it was outward society that would react differently towards me. So if I wanted to spend time with my friends who were girls or have a sleepover with them, like, that felt natural to me. But then it was like, oh, you can't because you're not, we're not seeing you as a girl right now. So then I, you know, grew up without a lot of those experiences that I wanted. I was actually very popular in high school because I was so different. I was running around, you know, as a little gay boy, but I always believed just be the gayest gay you could be because I was in denial for so long about who I was. But then when I finally came to that recognition in my own head of who I was becoming, then I learned more language about what a transgender person was, then I really thought that that's a way I can identify myself. And you know, it's such a unique worldview that that's something that I'm approaching all my work with now, doing new projects. You
just feel more in your skin now.
Yeah, and being queer is finally, like,
it's
acceptable.
Cool.
It's profitable, if you will. So yeah, you see it on the runways. You see it in film, portrayed better than ever.
Nice. What a time to be alive. That's awesome.
I know.
So what would you say to someone that might be maybe a teenager that's in that position of, like, they don't know, they might be feeling like, you know, maybe I am trans and maybe my family won't accept me, maybe my friends won't like this. Like, what do you have to say to them? Yeah,
I mean, just all the youth, that even gay, lesbian youth, but especially transgender youth, you know, they need something to live for. And I think that that is the most important thing, is just to give yourself time to develop, because, you know, my transition was very, like, unique and tailored to me. Like, I'm a very custom person, body, personality, everything, totally custom. But I would say to youth out there, just give yourself some time. And I think now you have so many resources to educate yourself so that you really can experiment. Like, even if you identify trans now, you don't have to identify trans always. And yeah.
I had no idea.
Well, our identities, they're all fluid, you know, even your identity.
Yeah, isn't that like kind of like everyone, I feel like
you might be trans and just not know it. It's a possibility.
Hey, you never know. But I feel like I'm still learning a lot about myself. I'm still figuring out things. I'm 32 years old, and I feel every single year I'm just learning more about myself. So it's weird society tries to put these limits and these labels and these constructs on people when realistically, like, can we just live our life and just...
Yeah, there's this like unseen cage that we all kind of put each other in, but it's up to ourselves to really live free.
That's a cool analogy.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
So I feel like, especially like people that are young or questioning what they want to do, just experiment. There's nothing to say that you can't ever go back and change something. And plus, identity is different. You can be a gay trans person. Trans is just a gender. It's like being male, female, or non-binary, which is another term. And then there's transgender. So trans is transitioning, and then non-binary is not identifying into one of the binary groups. But I feel like for me, being a trans woman, I'm more aspirational to, you know, living within the binary. But especially nowadays, we have to really recognize that there are more than those three genders. There's the non-binary people, and these are archetypes that have existed for centuries.
Just
now.
without a label. And now we have...
Yeah,
these...
or in different languages. Like, people didn't really speak English, like, in all societies back then. So Maoris, Native Americans, lots of non-Western cultures always had trans people. Like, if you go back and watch a lot of Disney movies, which I've been doing lately, like Mulan is a total trans story.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
I love Mulan. Really?
Yeah, but I mean, she's definitely like I see her as a trans person because she is trying to enlist in the military, if you will, and then because of her gender, she's not allowed to, so she has to assume this other identity. And so I really related to that story because for so long I was assuming this identity, and that was being a very flamboyant gay person. But, you know, in my head, I was still very depressed. Like, I was definitely having a lot of fun. I was very popular then. But then when I decided to actually transition and not be a gay person anymore and work on really living my lifestyle, because the reason why I identified as gay was because people would always say, you like boys, you're gay.
Okay.
But I like boys, and if you saw me now, if I said I like boys, you're not going to think I'm gay, right?
Now, that's a question. Like, some people, does that still count as gay? It's whatever, right? It's
Yeah.
like, it doesn't matter. Why put a label on it? Is it gay? Is it straight?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
what would it count?
sexuality, I don't think we should be afraid of labels at all. Like, just really have fun and experiment whatever makes you feel comfortable. Don't limit your pleasures.
Wait,
I'll say that much.
So what is it like dating? Are you open about being transgender, or are you just like, is it a step that you have to, you know, eventually, is it kind of like coming out all over again?
Yeah.
Like, what is that like?
Yeah, well,
Or are you just like...
for me, being here is like coming out. It's like my coming out of the closet. Like, there might be some stuff about me online, some advocacy that I'd been a part of, but for me, it was never something that I had to bring up because I kind of fly under the radar. But for now, it's just such an important part of my identity that I felt like I wanted to do the show with you and answer some of these questions because it's going to come to a shock to all my ex-lovers out there. But I am trans, and, you know, that's something I'm not ashamed of anymore, but I was for the longest time because I actually feared violence. Like, if I was going on a date with somebody new, like we had that attraction, you don't just say like, oh, by the way, here's my medical file. Do what you will with it. Do it in that information. To me, that was more protected. Like, I would let that information reveal itself as I get to know someone. But in the past relationships, it's been about 50-50 where I haven't told somebody and I constantly am running away from the fact of not telling them. But then it's like I tell them and they're like, oh, that's not anything to be ashamed of. And that's the reaction I've been getting more. But yeah, there's people who don't accept you and they'll want to choke you to death or do something worse to you. It happens to
Has that happened to you?
Yeah, I've been in situations where there's been violence. There's been, how could you not tell me? How could you, you know, it's actually a very precarious situation. And I think that, you know, we lose too many lives. And that's why I wanted to do the show too, is because there's so many lives that are lost through this senseless, romantic, intimate partner violence that I feel like trans people, they don't owe anybody an explanation. They don't need to they don't have to have transgender tattooed on their forehead. That's unrealistic. And when you date someone, you don't expect to tell them, open up your whole suitcase full of baggage that first date. But yeah, it's something I dealt with for a long time, and it's actually what I'm thinking of now. And I want people to think, like, should transgender people disclose? Is it important too? Is it not important? To me, in my case, I felt like it wasn't, because my gender matches my anatomy. Nice. So I feel like before I had been able to customize my body, I
like that.
Yeah, right. Nobody else has these, but or that. But there was this boyfriend. We were so in love. We were like, he was gonna introduce me to his parents, everything.
Oh, dang.
And yeah, and then I was like, and we were, I was spending the night at his house a lot, and he wanted to go down on me. And it was, when I was still a baby trans, and I was like, oh, I can't, make up some excuse. And then he's like, why won't you let me go down on you? And I was like, well, because there's this situation. He's like, what the fuck? And then I was like, oh my God. And so he dropped me off at my house, and I was crying. Then he came back to my house and was like, the thought of you crying was making me cry. And so I just want to be with you. I'll accept you. I'm sorry about all that stuff. But long story short, after that, we just couldn't cross that hurdle anymore, because he felt that I had kept something important from him.
He wanted you to be open from the beginning.
I mean, I don't know. I can speculate that he might have. He definitely wanted to be sexual with me from the beginning. But I think that, when you're a pre-op trans person and a post-op trans person, then it's kind of a different school of thinking when it comes to disclosing your identity.
Okay, so in terms of...
With sexual partners.
Okay, so in terms of pre-op, you are now post-op, correct?
Yeah, I would be considered post-op.
You would be considered post-op.
Had some body modification, if you haven't been able to tell.
Customized.
Yeah, custom.
Nice. So take me through going through that transition, mentally, what is that like? Nervous as hell, scared, excited? How do you feel going through that? And what goes through your mind? Just take me through the whole process.
Yeah, I don't want to dig up old bones, so I won't tell you too much about my sob story. But I was living life, living large. When I identified as gay male. Cool. But then when I started identifying as a queer person, a trans woman, then that was just kind of unacceptable to people in 2014, 2015. I actually lost jobs, I lost friends, I had lost family, a lot of doors shut in my face. And, I was just still trying to figure out what kind of person I was and what power I held and what my identity all meant. It was very unforgiving, I'll say that much. That's why I try to be more loving with people, because I know what it likes, and I know a lot of people like to, when you've been hurt, you like to make others hurt. But my belief now is that no, I don't want anybody to hurt. I just, more love.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Anyone that you lost in the process that was like, nah, I don't support that. Are you in contact with them now, and they've accepted you since?
I'm thinking about a good one for that. There's actually not anybody that I've
family
lost.
Members, were your family members supportive, or were they like, nah?
Well, my family didn't accept it for a long time. My sister, they would dead name me, calling me by an old name, that sort of thing. But my sister, one time we got a fight on Christmas, and I had already transitioned, looking very fabulous, green velvet dress, gold hoops, and I was chilling with my mom, and me and my sister got in a physical fight that night. She poured a bottle of wine on my head. Turned into the Hulk. I was like, and so we were boxing, and then she calls the police, and she says my brother hit me. And so the DA gets a call, and they're like, your brother and sister. The sister got hit by the brother. Obviously, it's two sisters fighting. I spent Christmas in jail, and I went to the. They didn't know. They wanted to cut my hair off. They wanted to know if I had a twigs and two berries. In our criminal justice system, there's no respect. And even in our society, there's not really that much respect for trans people, which is why I hope that my films and conversations like this help get people more comfortable and being a little more curious and being more accepting of people that are different.
I grew up in a very small town, very rural. There was no such thing as transgender in my community. Maybe there was, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
But I didn't even meet a single transgender person until I was...
Yeah, because you didn't even hear the word probably until like later on in life.
Not at all. We didn't even really have much of the internet growing up.
Yeah.
It wasn't big in high school. So by the time I actually met someone, I didn't even know, like, I just didn't know anything. So I asked my family, what are some questions you would ask, and what would you say? And a lot of them wonder, like, what does it mean to be post-op? What happens? Like, do you just, do you no longer have a penis anymore? Or like that's things that they asked me, and I was like, I don't know. There's only one way to find out. So what do you say to questions like that?
I mean, I got them. As a trans person, you're just bound to get them. I think it's similar to other marginalized communities who get kind of questions like that, but. For me, it used to really bother me. I was like, no, I'm a woman. You must refer to me this way, that way. But now I'm more comfortable and self-aware now that I'm just like, oh, you think I sound like a man? Okay, yeah, I'm a really cool dude. But like, I don't let it faze me anymore. So when people want to ask questions like that, of course, they have good resources. But I feel like coming from the source, to answer your family's question, post-op means that you are post-operative. You had surgery to make your body congruent with your mind, if you will. So basically, I wanted to look and be female physically because that's kind of just my natural instincts in my head. And so, you know, it was a long process, and I actually am a trailblazer in that field because New Mexico insurance companies and insurance companies rarely had ever been challenged on insurance coverage for bottom surgery, which is where you have genital surgery, or top surgery where you have breast surgery, and that's for both male and female trans people. So if you're female transitioning to male, you can have phalloplasty, which is where they will cut off a piece of skin from another part and reconstruct a penis, or remove the breast tissue. So for me, I was opposite and got all that stuff removed.
So wait, but do you feel the same feelings that, like, let's say having sex? As a female, would you feel the same feelings a female would have having sex in terms of like orgasming and things like that? Or is it more similar to a male in terms of climaxing, if you will? I don't know.
I mean, I'm privileged that I've experienced both. But, you know, I gotta come all sorts of way here to Tuesday. But I love my sex life now. It's better than ever because I don't have that dysfunction. I don't have that chip on my shoulder anymore. I don't have to work with equipment that I am uncomfortable using. So for me, sex is better than ever. And just the science and the medicine behind plastic surgery. Voila, I'm like a walking ad for plastic surgery. But I think that it's incredible what they've been able to do in reconstructing a penis or a vagina. And for me, I think sex is fantastic, and my partners love it. They say things like, "Oh my God, you're so fucking tight. I can only last 5 seconds," and then kaboom, and then I'm like, "Oh my that was gosh, good. That was good, but I'm not done." But but for me, I love it. I use a lot of sex toys still, and it's just. You know, I have more fun with myself. You know, when they say go play with yourself, now I don't mind being so alone. If people want to think I'm a freak, I can go play with myself and have a lot of fun, more fun.
Wait, so in terms of, are you single right now? Or are you you're dating? Okay, yeah. Cool. Did you do online dating at all?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that's how we met.
So
too.
do you
Instagram?
So do you put yourself out there like you are trans, or you just say if they ask, cool. If not, cool. Like, how far along in the process? If you are to tell them, I mean, I guess you would tell them, right? There's not no telling them.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of, like, situations I've been through, like, in the last month or so where there was this guy, he was like, oh, my God, you're so fucking beautiful. Like, we need to get together. And so, like, I went and I spent a night with him. We had sex all night. And then, you know, I kind of wasn't feeling him, so I was, like, not calling him. And then I get an email from him a month later saying, like, when were you going to tell me you were transgender? And I kind of got a mean case of the blues because I was like, why the fuck is he asking me that? Like, it's obviously not that important to me. Why is it important to him? Like, the stuff worked. And, like, you know,
that's all that matters.
He only knew my identity because of the internet, you know, and looking me up, and because I'm an actress and people can have access to me on film and all the sorts of other stuff. But this other situation, I met the guy online too. He was like, it's not a big deal. I never would have been able to tell. Like, everything really works well. And so it's like, I didn't have to tell him that. In fact, I think all trans people, and especially ones that are able to live a life like me, like we're goddesses or kind of sexually superior, if you will. And I think all people are kind of leaning towards this like hybrid human and plastic surgery, like kind of Terminator-ish, if you will. Like, people live with fake hips, they live with fake, amputees and stuff, bionics, if you will. I think trans people are kind of like bionic people.
Wow. I guess, like, what's the difference? Surgery is surgery, right? People have fake hips, people have fake lips, people have fake everything.
Yeah.
So why is there any difference? Why is there this
It's just
this
body
stigma?
modification. Yeah, there should be less stigma, because that's what I'm realizing now, especially when it comes to dating, is like, I don't have to disclose. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. The man who I'm seeing now is like, oh, well, if you had put trans on your dating profile, then I would have just skipped past you because I don't know anything about that. So for me, I feel like I don't necessarily have to say it. Like, people can think it. I mean, growing up, the person that was trans in my town, we just thought they were a crossdresser, but she was all flamboyant and gorgeous and stuff, and kind of the town hoochie. And so, that's kind of how I see myself too, as a very glamorous being, like kind of supernatural, if you will.
Then do you struggle with, as a male, I have my insecurities. My wife, as a female, she has her insecurities.
Yeah.
Do you have double dose of feelings, both male and female sometimes?
I still feel like a masculine energy and a female energy. Like, yeah, gender dysphoria. Like, I struggled with that, obviously, coming from one end of it and then coming to the other. Like, that was the biggest struggle. Like, feeling like I'm feeling very powerful in my femininity, but the world is still seeing me as like this man, or like this woman that doesn't deserve respect because she was once a man, or she looks like a man or something. So I struggled with gender dysphoria with my body. That's why I have had modifications, because it did bother me. But for all trans people, it didn't bother them. But for me, my breasts were small. That bothered me. Now they're beautiful, big and beautiful. My face, it bothered me for a little while. Got a little tweak here and there, and now everyone is loving it.
This might be
male and female, and everything in between.
And now you're more comfortable than you ever have been before in your own skin. You feel like yourself.
Yeah, the gender dysphoria, it's crazy that just a surgery ends that. And that's really all it took.
This might be a dumb question. Was it painful? Like, the process, like recovering and everything? Did it hurt? Was there a lot of pain?
They give you a good cocktail of like morphine and oxy and
just
all
everything.
that stuff. Yeah, but the doctors are great. Yeah. The one thing that hurt the most, I feel like, and this just goes for, like, this is not surprising, but like my breasts, they hurt the most, because I was, I just wasn't used to all this weight. But yeah, but everything else didn't hurt. Like, you're just so numb, and they know how to slice you and cut you and sew you back together so that everything feels exactly the way it was. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question for you. There's a lot of people in this world, a lot of conservative people, a lot of religious people that say you are undoing God's work. You were put here a specific way as God intended it to be, and whether you're religious or not, like, what do you say to that? Because a majority of this country and a lot of this world is Christian or Catholic. So what would you say to people that view you as just slapping God in the face? Are you religious? Are you spiritual? Or
no? Yeah, I mean, I say my prayers every night, and I say grace over meals and stuff. But I feel like, as far as God's will, I'm doing God's will. Like,
because
I'm bringing a little beauty into an ugly world, and I feel like God, if you are so devout to God, everything here on this earth is in His image. So when I go to bed at night, I always thank Him for the green pastures, the blue oceans. For me, I think that if you're trying to spin being religious as being transphobic or homophobic, then that's just like, it's a non sequitur for me. It doesn't make sense. So I'll never, it rolls off of me. I have a thick skin, but I just think that it's I think that there's so many better ways to express your religion.
I totally agree. And honestly, this is a part of the all-encompassing, everything that he intended, giving you the ability to do whatever the hell you want and act however the hell you want. It's a part of the whole thing. Some people just like to pick and choose whatever they like. Recently, in the last couple of years, there have been a few members of the transgender community in sports that transition from male to female, and they go into their new sport and they dominate. And the MMA is a perfect example. There have been transgender, now females, that have put women in comas. Do you feel like this is fair? Like, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like there should just be all-encompassing in sports, or should there be different leagues, men's, women's, transgender? How do you feel about that?
Ooh, I like that idea. I think that there could be a transgender league, but the idea is to have everybody assimilate together. At least for transgender people, we're barely being allowed in the military. We're barely being accepted. Very, very small gains. There's still miles to go. But for athletes, trans athletes, I feel like they should be allowed to compete with the gender that they are representing. I think if you are a trans athlete and you want to compete with that gender, so like the male MMA fighter that transitioned is a female MMA fighter now. If they're on hormones and everything, then they're really close to that gender. Like when you take hormones, it totally re-evaluates everything that your body is creating. So like your muscle tissue, if you're male to female, then your muscle tissue gets a lot less. Like there's just a lot of very similar, if not exact, biophysiological things that trans women have in common with actual women. Because there's women that are like 240 and, really built.
Yeah. Have you taken any hormones?
Yeah, I've been taking hormones for 6 years now.
How is that? Is that like, do you get like mood swings, or like, is there any side effects, or like?
Yeah, ask your wife. But no, it's the same. Like, just you take estrogen, it kind of gives you a wider access to all your emotions. So I love it. Makes me cry a lot more.
Makes you cry more?
I'm very pretty when I cry. But yeah, no, I really like it because especially my field as being an actress, I feel like I have more experience to draw from. I feel like I have more range of emotions to draw from. The hormones, though, they do make you hella tired. And there are some things like you're not really totally in control of, like where you build fat, and that just all depends on your family. But
fascinating.
Hormones are a hell of a drug, and not that much is known about hormones right now, so it's kind of trial and error. So I'm a walking science experiment when it comes to hormones. Yeah, I've been on there's shots, there's pills, there's patches, there's lotions.
So how do you pick?
I've tried them all because I wanted to see not all at once, but but for a while I was getting injections into my rear end, and then that made me grow a lot of hair and gain a lot of weight. I was like a fat werewolf, but then now I'm on like a more even hormone regimen where things are just chilling.
Wait, so you mentioned hair, so like so I gotta shave my face probably every day, if not every other day.
Yeah.
Do you still have to shave your face?
Oh yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Is it smooth? No.
It's super smooth. It's super smooth. So I don't know. It's just
I actually, through a philanthropic organization that I helped found, the Trans Women Empowerment Initiative, we were able to get some resources from a national foundation to help trans women get laser hair removal, because that's a big obstacle for trans women. Because again, it's not bad if you're a woman with a bit of a beard that's natural. We have hair. Like I get the little hair that I do have removed. But for so many people, it's an obstacle, it's a hurdle. It's how it gives people the license to discriminate against them, to say, oh, you don't look like a woman, so I'm not going to treat you like a woman. I'm not going to treat you with respect. And so, like, getting something as small as laser hair removal really changes the game up for a lot of women, gives them such a newfound confidence to not be just maliciously, verbally attacked by people and physically attacked. If I walk down the street right now with a mustache, people might think it's like satire or something. They wouldn't think it's really my identity. But if I went out with some stubble, then people would feel like that's a way to bring me down, because they can tell I'm a trans person, and everybody wants to feel superior to trans people. Or so I feel, is what I encountered. And now the experience is so different that trans people are growing up being able to transition, but I didn't transition until 2015. So it's pretty
2015.
recent. Yeah, so I was 23 years old, and when I was looking a hot mess, people were like not so forgiving. And so I know the struggle, and so that's why I think laser hair removal, it's a great thing to gift to a trans person, and I think that our healthcare community should really include that in part of their transition care.
And you said you founded an organization that helps with that?
Yeah, it's called the Trans Women Empowerment Initiative. Me and a couple of other trans girlfriends here, we wanted something that was by and for us, not like we're LGBT, but transgender is not a sexuality, so we wanted our own thing. And so we created this foundation where we would help people manicure their looks so that they could get jobs, get dates, get away from high-risk behaviors like being on Central selling sex. And so that's something that a lot of girls do when they can't participate in the mainstream economy. They have to go do that, and that oftentimes comes from the discrimination, the bullying that trans people face if they don't look like if they don't aspire to the gender. So non-binary people, hopefully you have a guest that's non-binary soon, so you can get the whole range, but non-binary people do identify like that. And so I'm just here speaking on my own behalf and trans women, but I think trans women are aspirational to the binary and want to have hair removal.
Oh, this might be a dumb question. I've never had laser hair removal. Is it permanent? Is it forever? Or is it like a long time? Is it like LASIK?
Yeah, it's permanent.
It's permanent?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I had no idea. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. But if you get like hormones, like I was saying, I was taking the shots, like I had laser hair removal and then took the shots. Back. And then I was getting really hairy everywhere. And it was like peach fuzz. And then I had to shave my face.
Oh. In terms of pronouns, and some people, you said, I think I spoke to you on the phone, you said you used to take offense if someone were to mislabel you or anything like that. So like, what are some do's and don'ts of meeting people? Just treating them with respect, but like in terms of, I don't want to say the wrong pronoun or, things like that.
Yeah.
Like, how do I go about that?
I mean, if you're seeing somebody who has like a presentation that may strike you as a little different, just treat them like you would a normal person.
Yeah.
Like for me, you probably wouldn't ask me what my pronouns were because you can easily visibly identify me with one gender. But if there's somebody who is a little more androgynous, then maybe just introduce yourself. Be like, hey, I'm Keith. What can I call you?
What can I call you? I can say that? Yeah,
what can I call you?
With a little
or
wink.
Can I call you? Yeah, with the wink too. And then blow a kiss too. And then make out. And then that's and then they'll tell you afterward.
And then they'll tell afterward and making out. A lot of people like to talk about and debate on bathroom. I went to a gender-neutral bathroom where it was just all stalls. This was in New York. It was all stalls and a communal sink. I thought that's how every bathroom should be. What do you say to people that are like, they like to say things like, if we allow transgender people to do it, then all people will start crossing over and doing whatever the hell they want. They believe this anarchy will. What do you say to all of that?
Yeah, I mean, when we go to concerts, when we go into Porta Potty, we didn't care if a man or a woman came out before us, You just gotta go do your thing. But that debate is getting so tired that thankfully as a society we're finally moving forward. And the people who don't like it are just gonna have to deal with it because that's the new American. The new American is somebody who has a transgendered past. Somebody that, there's so many transgender people that you don't even know about, that I don't even know about, that we'll never even be able to know about because they'll live their life completely stealth. But I feel like there's just so many people, and that, like, and open-minded people like you too, that the people who don't like that, well, they can go use their own bathroom.
I like that.
I don't use bathrooms all the time, I'm going to be honest. Especially with COVID, I'll if I'm on a road trip or something, I'll pull over and go pee behind a tree. The bathroom thing is just, it's old, and everybody deserves to relieve themselves. Even dogs do.
So has anyone ever given you any sass about using a bathroom or anything like that?
No, but in 2014, when I was advocacy of the Queer Straight Alliance at UNM, I actually did the Universal Bathroom Initiative, and now UNM has universal bathrooms designated on campus.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you are a huge advocate for basically all communities. You're basically just trying
to be. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So back a couple of years ago, you were an intern. correct?
Yes.
You're an intern in politics.
Yeah.
And then something happened. Something were you laid off? Were you fired, or can you explain to me what happened? I know
Yeah.
there's a lawsuit and a whole bunch of things happened, but like, how did everything play out? What do you think happened?
So through that experience, I had just transitioned, so I saw moving to DC, working on Capitol Hill as like a fresh start. Nobody knew anything about me. I had transitioned already.
You were already transitioned.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I was really under the radar, just kind of going and being, me, Riley.
Nice.
And then, I was working for a member of Congress, and let's just say they saw my skirt, if you will, and they didn't like it. So yeah, they fired me. But no, that was something that definitely felt like your intuition tells you a lot, and I'm really guided by mine. And just showing up and being one of the most formidable students here on the University of New Mexico campus, that's what propelled me to that very high-profile job. And so losing it for some sort of coded language reason, like criticism I faced as just being a female, whether they knew I was trans at the time or not, was your hair's too curly, your lipstick's too bright, your heels are too high. And
They would say that to you.
yeah, and it was really like kind of awkward to me because I lived in an apartment with 6 other girls, and so we'd like get ready in the mornings together. Oh, your outfit looks great. That looks so cute. And so it was just really something that caught me off guard. But then of course I discovered why that was, and that was because I was transgender.
How did you discover that was the reason why? Like what did they say to you? They're just like, sorry, we don't got a
Yeah.
reason, or it's because you weren't honest with us, or like, what did they say?
I mean, it's such crazy irony. I had been to an event on Capitol Hill commemorating women who stood out from the crowd with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Nancy Pelosi, Justice Sotomayor, Justice Kagan was there, just women who really blazed trails and stood out from the crowd. Went to that reception that day, and when I got back to the office, they pulled me into a room and told me, hey, you forgot to tell us that you were transgender. We can't have that political fallout. We're going to have to let you go. And so for me, I was 23 and wide-eyed and jaw-dropped and alone, 2,000 miles from home. And so I just kind of accepted it at the time and just put my tail between my legs and went out of there crying. But then, it wasn't until a couple years later where I actually was able to identify some of the things that happened there that gave me standing to launch a case. And when I did that, that proceeding was supposed to be confidential, but I believe one of the campaigns used it to propel their campaign during the governor election a couple years ago.
So now
which is how most people know me, because there was articles written about that lawsuit.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're able to tell your side of the story rather than whatever the media wants to fabricate and come up with.
Yeah, and that's why I am doing my new project, Capital Barbie, which is a way for me to tell my own story. It's a TV pilot episode about fish out of water, coming of age, young woman from New Mexico who goes to Washington, D.C. to pursue her dreams of working on the Hill, ruffles the feathers of an egoistic congresswoman who kicks her off the Hill. And so that character, that's based on my real life, and it's a way, I wrote, produced it, and directed it, so it's a way for me to tell my side of the story.
Nice. You wrote, produced, and directed. How come you did not decide to star in it?
I decided not to star in it at the time because I really wanted to get an actress that kind of resembled me at that time, and meaning like was still young, bright-eyed, very young, inexperienced, that sort of thing, and I wanted to, do that. And of course I got to focus on the creative. I'm telling one hell of a story, so I really gotta to make sure I'm focused in the director's chair doing that. But I am making a cameo in the first episode.
Right on. Let's take a look at a trailer for Capital Barbie by Riley Del Rey.
Dolly Golightly is a University of New Mexico graduate. She will spend the next year working alongside Latino Caucus Chairwoman and Congresswoman Melissa Lopez Gaffney.
That is a strong handshake. I am stepping down as chair and running for the governor of New Mexico.
I could be the first Latina president. So watch how you address me.
Now show me your first lady material.
I'll show you.
Oh. Okay.
I can't stand those fucking interns.
These nice new pieces of ass running around here.
None of them last on the hill, though.
I had Dolly in my bed last night.
You mean Capital Barbie?
She must be trans. She's too hot.
We can't let women run this country. Be careful what you wish for we become the bitches.
Oh my God, Dolly. What are you gonna do now that you've been fired? Why'd you get fired anyway?
Everyone knows the hot ones don't last on the hill.
I'm sure that your congresswoman fired you more than just your beauty. I hope that you had the balls to stand up for yourself. I don't think that I would.
Yeah, I know you wouldn't.
What does the LGBTQ, I may be missing some letters, mean to you, and how have they been to you throughout this entire process?
I feel like this is such a controversial opinion that I hold.
Oh.
It's that the community is LGBT plus, but I feel like T really needs its own home now. That it's not LGBT and T, and it hasn't been for a very long time. Not since Stonewall, not since ever. And even with my experience in modern day LGBT politics, sometimes the L and the G, the lesbian and the gay, sometimes will co-opt the momentum or the direction or the agenda of the transgender community so that we kind of get thrown under the bus. So we're the negotiating piece for the L and the G. And so that never sat right with me. And so I think that nowadays there's so many good trans organizations popping up throughout the United States that it's really, I think that that's where a shift should be. Whether it'll happen in our time, I don't know, but I think that you can have a trans lesbian, a trans gay person, a trans bisexual person, but you can never have the others without the T. So like the T can be the others, but the others can't be the T. Does that make sense? So gays don't have to identify as trans, but there can be a trans gay person.
Because they transitioned.
Yeah, so gay and lesbian means that they identify as their gender and they are attracted to that same gender. So I'm a gay male, I'm attracted to gay males, I'm gay. I'm a lesbian woman, I'm attracted to females, I'm lesbian. But trans people, they can be attracted to males, they can be attracted to females. But trans people can be gay or lesbian or straight. And lesbian and gay people, they can be trans. But the priorities, and more oftentimes than not, trans people don't have the same agenda as the gay community or the lesbian community.
I feel like this is...
I know, it's a mind...
Everybody's awesome.
Yeah.
Why not just treat everybody with respect? But at the same time, it's like splitting hairs, so you could be... So if you had to label yourself...
Well, let me put it this way. For like a lot of gay people, gay marriage was a really important thing.
Okay.
But for trans people, I feel like the most important thing was having access to healthcare, having access to surgery. It wasn't those other highfalutin, more heteronormative things, like getting a family. Trans people want that too, but I feel like their priorities were a lot different. And even now, trans people are being allowed in the military years after gay people were allowed in the military. And you don't necessarily have gays and lesbians uprising or subverting the government or these institutions to advance trans people. And I feel like when trans people advance, they bring everybody else with them.
Fascinating.
So that's why I think that there's that's a controversial opinion, is because I feel like the trans community does a lot, but doesn't get a lot. They deserve better. But that's just me. I know what I'm worth.
So what do you say to the people that say trans people should not be in the military?
Oh, yeah.
It almost sounds, it's like just less people in the military. I just don't understand. I I don't know. Maybe it's because.
I think it would make the military better, honestly.
How so?
Because there'd be like more viewpoints, and maybe those people would eventually get promoted to leadership and kind of change the whole culture. And so it's just about, for me, I think the trans community is making those little inroads, but eventually, you know, we're coming for the top.
Do you see any progression being made? Do you feel after the last couple of years we've regressed? Where do you see everything playing out for yourself as well as the trans community overall?
I am very optimistic about it. I think that give it 5 or 10 years, the more time you can give trans people, the better we're going to resource it, because that's all it takes is like and really this goes for everybody and everything in nature, is that kind of things just happen at the right time. And so we're all these little caterpillars turning into cocoons, and we bide for a little while, and then we're a butterfly, you know? So I feel like if we just give more time, more things always improve. And with trans people in the military now, that's a test bed of society, so I feel like that's gonna elevate the amount of respect trans people get. And watching my movies, of course, are gonna educate people, and I see myself being very successful for the next 5, 10 years, and I think that I am a trailblazer in this field, and my story, Capital Barbie, is one transgender story that's being told now, but 5 or 10 years from now, there's gonna be more trans characters that are gonna drive TV and film.
Would you appreciate if we just got rid of these labels? Or do you feel like these labels are progressing the identity and awareness of the trans community? Because like ideally for me, I grew up biracial, and I'm like, you know, you call me Asian, you call me white, just I'm a human being, that's all I am. So do you feel like these labels and things like that are perpetuating the divide or helping identify or giving identity to the community?
That's a great question. I think it gives a lot of identity, but they get weaponized. So people, like, I'm a trans woman, but people will be like, ew, you're a trans woman? And I'd be like, okay, I didn't want to sit with you guys anyway, you know? But it's like I was just identifying, and then people weaponize that identity against me. And so, like, I'm sure for you, there's been some marginalization being biracial where people will, they can identify you as that, but they're like, oh, you're biracial. It's like they see you as diversity. They don't really see the full Keith Allen.
Yeah, it'd be weird. I'd be like too Asian for the white people and too white for the Asian people. And I'd just be in this weird limbo of just, hey guys, I'm just trying to hang with all of y'all.
Yeah,
just, you know what I
and
mean?
it's been a rough couple of years. The last 4 years were so hard, and I think a dying bull kicks hardest when it's on its last string. So I think that all that sort of weaponization of people's identities is on its way out, and we're starting to live in a more accepting culture. Whether that be politically correct or not, I don't care how people identify. I'm more about me, myself as an individual. But like, I think respect is just like the one thing that's really needed in our politics.
Okay, as a filmmaker, there's a famous director that said, he's a black, an African-American director, and he said he will never cast a white person as a lead in any of his movies. And he says he would be depriving black people of that opportunity. Now, I believe that is defeating the assimilation. It is perpetuating the divide. So when you make a movie and you produce a movie and you want to put you want to insert the transgender community into it, do you want to assimilate that way everyone's just together? Or would you like to cast solely transgender community just to give them the opportunity?
Yeah, there's a lot of, well, there's not enough up-and-coming trans actresses in the age range I was looking to cast my film with, so I used a cisgender person, which I know there's a lot of controversy around whether or not cis people should play trans people. And I think
Wait, what is that?
Oh, well, cisgender is where like you're born and you identify with the genitalia that matches your gender. So I think Scarlett Johansson was in talks to play a trans man, and I think that would have done wonders because it would have shown that trans stories have box office potential. And there was a lot of pushback from the trans community about having a trans person play a trans role, but I think that runs the risk of being pigeonholed into just doing one thing.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's, for that particular director, I can't speak for his motivation, but I think that as trans people, we want more opportunities. We don't want to just be turned away because we're trans. And like, there's been so many great black actors who have been turned away just because they're black. And so I feel like for white actors, they have dominated everything we view and consume, and even executives in decision-making positions that they, that I think it is time to make protagonists different, just tell a different story. We can only...
We've heard all that before. All that.
Yeah, and Hollywood's always reinventing itself, so maybe they have a white character in this franchise, and then 10 years later they'll do a black lead. Like, I know they're doing that with a lot of Disney movies, like Tinkerbell and Ariel. They're going to be black actresses now, and I think that is wonderful.
So ideally, would you want to play a female role, or would you rather play a trans role?
Well, lately all my auditions have been for trans characters, but I feel like what we portray as trans in the media is kind of what the stereotypes are, if you will. So because I'm very conforming, they might want something a little more androgynous. And I'm being politically correct right there, but they're looking for somebody who you can tell is visibly trans. And because I don't always have that. But all the roles I've had so far have been female, and the character is not trans. I just happen to be trans.
Okay, but I cannot play a trans character. Like that would not fly well with the trans community. Is that correct?
I think if you have the talent, you should be able to play
whatever, right?
Yeah,
it's acting.
I'd like to see you in a wig and heels.
I mean, we shall see. We shall see.
I'd like to see you dressed up, but I think that'd be cool. Like I said in Capital Barbie, I cast a cisgender actress. It wasn't super important that I have a trans actress because I'm a trans director, I'm trans writer, I'm trans producer. I'm already bringing that. So it doesn't have to be all of that. And
it doesn't have to be exclusive.
Yeah, and I find the less that I let myself get offended, the less marginalized I am. So the less you telling me, the less I let people be like, why didn't you tell me you were trans? Or, oh, you're a tranny or a man, or all this stuff. I just don't let it offend me anymore, and I feel like it's so freeing, and I'm less marginalized because I don't really give that stuff any weight anymore. But that comes with age and maturity.
There wasn't a specific moment that you were just like, all right, I'm sick and tired of this bullshit, and you stopped taking offense, or it was just like a beautiful combination of just life events molding into you turning into who you are today?
It was through a lot of harrowing experiences. So a lot of people really, putting you down, and then just really one day you just become so immune to it, if you will, or just numb to it. I'd call my friends crying like, oh my God, this guy, he thinks I'm trans and blah, 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 blah. And she's like, don't let him make you cry. Like, why are you giving him your power? And I'm like, you know what, you're right. Like, I hold the power. I have it within me I make my own choices. That's the only thing I can control. And the choices I make when I respond to people are just be nice. Like, maybe somebody's an idiot, I'll keep that to myself.
So what do you say to the teenage version of you, or the teenager out there, or anyone out there that's just like in your position that you were in when you were, say, I don't know, 18, 19 years old?
I would say everybody is a freak, so don't be afraid to be a freak either, because everybody is behind closed doors, on the weekends, if you will. But it's okay to just stand out. Like, people live for that, and just really do you, because happiness is contagious. And for people who are questioning whether or not they should do it because they're scared of the discrimination or the violence and all that stuff, it's just like, you have to take the risk to be happy. And the risk for me in my transition was worth the reward 1,000,000 times. I would do this again. And if I was talking to 15-year-old me, I'm trying to think where I was at in that life, I was getting expelled from school for not cutting my hair. So again, I was asserting myself then, and I would say just keep doing what you're doing because you're rocking. And it may not seem like it's that important now to everybody else, but there's a bigger picture that you always have to keep in mind, is the bigger picture. Don't get short-sighted. If you're wondering how you should feel, or questioning if being trans and coming out and living like this is for you, I would say that you should definitely talk to somebody, but make you feel like you. So if there's something that putting on a piece of clothing or a piece of makeup or something like that is gonna make you feel the you as you at the time, do it and just be you. So cliche.
Just be you. Yeah. And last but not least, what do you want to say to the haters? The people that no matter what you do, what you say, you will not change their mind. They believe that you are they believe you are someone else. You know who you are. They believe you are someone else. What do you say to those people?
To the haters, I say a couple of things. Say love you and go fuck yourself.
Riley, thank you so much for everything, for being here today. This is incredible.
Thank you.
I've learned so much, and I really appreciate how open you've been. This is absolutely beautiful. You're an advocate for not just the trans community, but I believe for all communities, for bringing us all together. And what you've done today, to me, is absolutely beautiful, and it really means the world to me. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Aw, thanks for making me your first guest. Let me pop your cherry.
My cherry's been popped. All right, before we wrap up today, I just wanted to say a quick shout out and thank you to my beautiful wife, to my production company, Sopapilla Productions, the crew, Matt and Mike. Thank you so much. Studio 519 for having us today, and the lovely Riley Del Rey for a really solid interview. Thank you so much. Now, I've been wanting to do this show for a very long time, and there's a reason why. We live in a society where we are easily offended, we're quick to rush to judgment, and we refuse to understand where other people are coming from, where they don't share the same perspective as we do. And I think that's complete bullshit. And that's the exact reason of why I'm doing this show. We need to reestablish the lines of communication, and the only way we could do that is not just by listening to people, but by understanding where they are coming from. My name is Keith Allen, and join me next time on Let's Get Deep. Thank you so much. Good night.
Sopapilla.